buddy Dean Obeidallah, excuse me, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, weekdays 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Sirius XM Progress Channel 127. He's also a columnist with CNN and MSNBC and a contributor to The New Republic. And his Substack is the Dean's Report, deanofradio.com, deanobeidallah.substack.com for the Dean's Report. And, of course, Dean Obeidallah is his Twitter handle. Dean, welcome back to the program. On your Dean's Report, which I subscribe to and I read every time one appears in my email box, you were talking about how Donald Trump is rolling out the racist anti-Muslim card, and that this kind of cuts close to home for you, and the contrast between that and Vice President Harris reaching out to you. Tell us the story.
Sure. Well, last week, a very interesting week. In the same week that Donald Trump was pledging an expanded, even bigger, he said even bigger Muslim ban. He calls it a travel ban. We know it as a Muslim ban. And you might be like, why would he bring up a Muslim ban? Why does he bring up Hillary Clinton's emails at his rallies? Because it gets cheers. So the base hates Muslims. So he says, I'm going to have a bigger Muslim ban. That same week, Vice President Harris had a gathering at her residence, the vice president residence, and I was one of the Muslims invited there to celebrate the Eid. Now, the invitation went out weeks before that, but it was an interesting contrast between the two. There's the leader of the GOP, again, trafficking in anti-Muslim bigotry, and Vice President Harris welcoming Muslims from around the country into her house. And I'll tell you, in the Biden administration, it is the most Muslim Americans ever, over 100, more than 100, work in various positions, from in the administration, deputy press secretary, to 13 confirmed by the Senate. So this is a record, and it's really what a great contrast from 2016 to where we are today. So it's great there. And Vice President Harris invited us for the Eid. There's 2 Eids every year for Muslims. They're just feasts. So this was the Feast of Sacrifice, the story of Abraham. Everyone knows from the Bible. Same story in the Quran, or Abrahamic faiths, the Christianity, Judaism, Islam. So it was just a fun event, but it was a great, great contrast between the two. That's
remarkable. Why wasn't more made of Trump's open and blatant call to bigotry? I saw the news stories about it, but it didn't seem to outrage very many people, and I'm not hearing anything from high-profile Democrats. Or am I just not noticing?
It didn't get much press. You're absolutely right, because he actually said it a few weeks before that, and I was going to write about it, but it was getting no traction. So he said it again. Some national media picked it up. He's just going back to the old bigoted hits from 2016. He's just rolling out the same garbage. Yeah. And I think because it's different than when he called for a total, complete shutdown on Muslims, which he did in 2015 in that campaign. This was a little bit more, I'm going to expand the travel ban. And he literally said, because we don't want people coming in to America and blowing up our shopping malls and blowing up our cities. There are no Muslims coming in committing acts of terror. Right. There was a big act of terror on January 6th by Donald Trump supporters, which he's defended them, given them aid and comfort, and promised to pardon them. Just a few weeks ago, a Trump supporter with weapons went to Obama's house because Trump posted on his social media platform, Obama's house. After Trump's house, his crime lair in Mar-a-Lago was searched in August, one of his minions went to the FBI office and was killed in a shootout because he was there to kill the FBI in the name of Trump. So the terrorism we're seeing is MAGA terrorism. So if you want to put a ban on MAGA terrorists coming to America, I'm with you. Muslims is distraction.
And that's arguably not bigotry, because they weren't born that way. I mean,
no, they weren't born that way. They were radicalized. Donald Trump, I'm not kidding, Tom, is like an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda recruiter. Yeah. He has radicalized people by repeating lies, then giving them a target. Donald Trump gives you a target. Right. On January 6th, he said, we're going to the Capitol to stop the steal. He posts who his targets are, his enemies are online, and his base knows what to do. Yeah. He's calling them to commit acts of violence. So it's really going to get ugly. Once he's charged with January 6 crimes, Tom, it's going to get really ugly.
I agree. Not that it isn't already. Dean, I had a lawyer question for you.
Sure. I'm here. Let me start my billable hour clock. Go ahead. I'll be billing you for this. Go ahead, Tom.
Indeed. Dana Nessel, the Attorney General for the state of Michigan, has charged these 15 or 16 fake electors in Michigan with multiple felonies. But she hasn't indicted them. I don't understand the difference. Explain the subtleties here.
Look, prosecutors And I was never a criminal prosecutor. I did a little bit of criminal defense work. I did a little municipal prosecution in one town in Jersey because a partner of my firm was the prosecutor, so I actually did it for him. Look, the police can sign a complaint against you. A prosecutor, if they have evidence, can sign a complaint against you, and then later go to the grand jury. We just saw it here in New York with a guy who was charged for killing someone on the subway, choking him to death. Alvin Bragg, the DA, charged him, then went to a grand jury and got the indictment. So it's not like you have to do one or the other first. It's up to them.
So the difference between a charge and an indictment is that a charge means that you are not actually immediately going to confront a trial, and an indictment does? I mean, I still don't understand the difference.
I don't know if they're meaningful in terms of timing. They're still criminal charges. Like if you commit a crime and a cop sees you, they don't go to a grand jury. They file a complaint right against you right there. It could be for speeding, going through a red light, a crime, breaking and entering. They arrest you right then. Then maybe later they will go to a grand jury and get an indictment. They present the evidence to a grand jury. Maybe they add more charges then. They do more of an investigation then. But Dana Nessel's seen enough. And just so people remember, she wanted the DOJ a while ago to look into it. Before Jack Smith was involved, Merrick Garland's DOJ wanted no part of it. And that's been the biggest problem is Merrick Garland did not want to get involved with what he has viewed as politics. We view as defending our democratic republic, the #1 charge of the Department of Justice, if you look at their website. So he really failed on that, but thankfully Jack Smith's doing a remarkable job.
Yeah, I think this is really a crisis of our political system right now, Dean, is that our Department of Justice is headed up by a guy who views basically anything that has to do with politics as something that can't be dealt with by law enforcement, or at least by the DOJ without, an intermediary, in this case, the special prosecutor, somebody to insulate them from, well, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it may, but, it just should have been done 2 years earlier. I'm curious your take on this.
Right. Tom, I mean, Merrick Garland got sworn in March 2021. Literally, because I wrote about this, 2 weeks before, there's Trump making his first public appearance after January 6th at CPAC, and the headlines are, Trump teases a run for 2024. Right then, Merrick Garland, knowing who he is, and he doesn't want to get involved in politics, should have simply appointed a Jack Smith-type person right then. And we would be having the trial now. There's no new evidence that Jack Smith did this. He was appointed in November. He's got 37 felonies, 31 for espionage in just 6 months. That's a separate case. Now he's about to charge for January 6th. If he would have done it then, we would have had the trial already. Donald Trump would be convicted by now. He'd be sentenced by now. He would have been gone from the public sphere, which we need.
He'd be in federal prison right now.
And he should. And he deserves, I will say this. I said on my show last night, Donald Trump needs to be charged, convicted, and then sentenced to prison and has to die in jail. And I don't say that cruelly. I say that he needs to be a cautionary tale to Democrats and Republicans alike. If you ever attempt a coup, if you ever incite an attack on our Capitol, this is your destiny. This is what happens to you. That is the only way to ever prevent this from ever happening, because there could be a Democratic demagogue one day down the road, thinks they're doing the right thing. You can't have it. We can't be a democratic republic if you're going to allow that to go unpunished. He must be punished.
Well, this was nearly the assassination of the Vice President of the United States and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and there's, I think, fairly good evidence that that was their goal, or that was one of the goals here, and that would have allowed Trump to declare a national state of emergency and invoke the Insurrection Act and basically stop the election, stop everything, just kind of freeze everything in its place. And when there was an attempt to overthrow the government of Abraham Lincoln, and it was a conspiracy, and it was a conspiracy to take down the Union. I mean, and John Wilkes Booth was part of that conspiracy. The people who were involved in that were hanged. I mean, I believe there were 6 of them. I'd have to go back and look. It's been a long time since I read that history.
Anybody who said a nice word to John Wilkes Booth they punish him. The law is aid and comfort. Donald Trump has provided aid and comfort, more than that, to the insurrectionists. Right. He's provided aid and comfort after the attack, saying nice words and offering.
Well, he also provoked it.
He has also planned it. This is like, I am literally looking into New York now to try to file a complaint with the election board, citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to trigger, I hope, a hearing to keep him off the ballot. In New Mexico, there was a judge in Ontario County, and I wrote about it last year, who banned a Republican who was involved in January 6th.
Right.
He took him out of office and banned him from running in the future. And now there are organizations look at doing that for Trump right now. And as citizens, we have to do something. We just can't wait. So I'm going to see if it's an option. If not, it might take an actual lawsuit. That I won't do. I'm not going to get involved in that. But if it's simply filing a complaint and triggering an investigation here in New York, and maybe they're sympathetic.
That's great stuff. Keep us up to date, would you?
Sure, of course.
I mean, I'd love to see how it works out. The great Dean Obeidallah. Yeah, check out the Dean's Report, deanobeidallah.substack.com, or just go over to Substack and plug in Dean's Report, and it'll pop right up. Dean, thanks a lot for dropping by.
Thanks, Tom. Nice chatting with you.
Great talking with you, too.